Hi everyone, my name is Vasilios Karagounis, General Manager for Azure Sovereign Solutions, and I'm excited to present today's session on the Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty and the expansion of Azure Confidential Computing. In this session, we'll share some of the innovations we have here at Microsoft that can help meet the unique and evolving needs for sovereignty, privacy, comprehensive security, and compliance for government and other customers. To start with, I wanted to spend a few moments on some of the things that we're hearing from our customers. Now, I've seen some interesting or even sort of crazy situations in public sector IT departments. And I'm sure many of you have as well. Examples are data centers in closets and under desks. And we hear over and over that our customers want to modernize and move to the cloud, but some key things get in their way. I'm going to discuss those barriers because that's what really guided our solution design in the first place. The first one is data sovereignty. This term can mean different things to different people, but most countries will typically describe it as the concept where their data is under control of the customer and governed by local law. Next is operational sovereignty. Customers often ask these questions. What happens if I lose access to the internet and I can't access my cloud provider? Or what would happen if someone were to cut off the internet from the borders around my country? Will my workloads continue to run? So for governments that are susceptible to impact from geopolitical events, it's critical that they can remain operational through unprecedented risks. However, this is something that it's incredibly hard to achieve in a global connected cloud. To truly achieve this, Azure's hybrid solutions can help customers run their private clouds with greater operational sovereignty. Now, with operator transparency, for example, a country or a government agency may say that they'd like to be able to manage the data that's going across their borders, similar to the way that they operate in the transport of physical goods or people, which means that these items might have some kind of passport. They review it at the entry or the exit. It's given a stamp and it's good to go. Now, when you're talking about the cloud or a data-centric world, this is close to impossible and very impractical. And so we see governments looking to address those gaps through operator transparency. Our approach is, okay, let's give you the ability to see what's happening, see what Microsoft operators are doing, review the code potentially, and see the deployments. And if somebody ends up doing work in the data center and modifies configuration or runtime elements as part of their operations, customers can see that log record and the change. Finally, our customers want these sovereign clouds and these sovereign controls without giving up any of the hyperscale cloud benefits that they look to Microsoft for. Our customers require multi-data center scale. They need things like zonal resiliency and developer familiarity, so that even a recent college grad who learnt and grew up on the Azure cloud can create code using the latest technology and techniques in their workloads too. We're seeing more excitement and trust within the public sector organizations that are considering a move to the cloud. Governments are increasingly moving workloads to the cloud to better improve their security stance, reduce their IT costs, or to enable greater resilience and sustainability of their infrastructure. In fact, in Gartner's 2022 Top Technology Trends in Government report, they predicted that by 2025, over 75% of governments will operate over half their workloads using hyperscale cloud service providers. And we're seeing this with our partners today. So let's get into what options we offer. We want to help customers with sovereign requirements choose the right balance between hyperscale benefits and operational control. When you consider our strategy, we've developed products for customers seeking sovereign capabilities across the dedicated to hyperscale spectrum. From the addition of sovereign controls into our commercial hyperscale data centers, all the way to our Azure hybrid investments, and through to our fully instanced clouds. Azure Hybrid delivers all the solutions from the Azure Stack and hybrid management tools, allowing data and applications to be safely shared between your cloud and on-prem infrastructure. Our fully instanced cloud offering provides an air-gapped cloud suitable for hypersensitive workloads on segregated network domains in select markets. Lastly, Azure Commercial features new sovereign controls in our commercial hyperscale data centers. This allows us to deliver a hyperscale cloud, connected workloads, in-country data residency, and the most parity by leveraging the same underlying technologies as our global Azure portfolio. I think it's also important to think about this from a global context. We provide global coverage with more than 60 data center regions and 124 availability zones across 35 countries. Now, that's more in-country regions than any other hyperscale cloud provider. This worldwide coverage allows us to support the broadest set of countries and deploy workloads around the world, enabling residency options for the entire Microsoft cloud, including Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, and Azure itself. Therefore, in collaboration with our partners, we're excited to introduce the Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty. With this product, we deliver on public cloud expectations of resiliency, security, agility, cost, and scale, while maintaining control over data and transparency to the environment operations. We deliver the flexibility to meet the unique needs of government and critical industry requirements using strong encryption and protections for data in transit, at rest, and very importantly, in use. We offer extensive experience in delivering compliant, data resident, sovereign solutions, so government customers can harness the power of public cloud and its full spectrum of capabilities like modern services, agile infrastructure, secure DevOps, open source platforms, modern collaboration, and low-code development. Now let's dive into the components of this new offering. It's built on a global infrastructure of existing and upcoming Azure regions and services, delivered as a public cloud offering that caters to data residency requirements, with the same resiliency, parity, and security of the hyperscale cloud. On top of that, customers can go and leverage a set of sovereign controls. Our sovereign controls provide innovative new technologies that enable you to meet sovereign and privacy requirements. This includes platform encryption and controls, managed HSMs in Key Vault, and over 300 policies to maintain sovereignty and a secure processing enclave. In addition to our newest element of the sovereign control space, Azure Confidential Computing. We're codifying our approach to how our Azure services work together to meet countries' sovereignty obligations, a process we associate with the concept of sovereign landing zones. These landing zones recommend and enforce regulatory compliance at runtime using infrastructure as code and policy as code capabilities built into Azure, so customers and partners can implement and enforce governance based upon their unique requirements. And this spectrum of technologies is governed by best-in-class automation to simplify and orchestrate sovereign controls for many government workloads. We are dedicated to providing governance and transparency through several existing programs we're augmenting and new programs and commitments. Our work with local partners helps ensure that government data classifications are managed application by application. And to enable greater control and effective operations, we're expanding our audit rights and our government security program for code transparency in Azure. Finally, and probably the most important element of the offer, is the broadened understanding of our customers. We have an amazing ecosystem of partners around the world that offer expertise and understanding of the needs and requirements of governments across the globe. And we're actively investing in centers of excellence to provide Microsoft technical expertise and to help customers leverage our best practices in the cloud. I believe our partners using our technology are the best ambassadors to deliver this solution to Microsoft's customers in government and other industries across the globe. If we break down our solution even further, here you'll see components that make up our sovereign controls. Of course, Azure regions and services provide the foundation for our technology, delivering local data residency and resiliency and a connectivity of a hyperscale cloud. The sovereign landing zone is a key artifact that we're delivering as part of the Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty, which orchestrates the deployment, configuration, monitoring, and management of data through our extensive portfolio of controls. The other crucial point to be aware of is our sovereign landing zone is a living configuration. It's a living piece of code. It will be consistently verified and updated by Microsoft engineering experts to ensure that we're bringing the latest platform security and common sovereign policy controls to our customers as we add new capabilities into the cloud and as our platform expands. So we've spent the last few minutes in an overview of the problem space and the Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty product description. I now want to hand off to Deepti, who's a senior program manager in the team.
Thank you, Vasilios. I'm Deepti Busireddy. I'm part of the product team working on Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty. I'll be walking you through a demo of some of the experiences that we're building for the solution. You just heard a lot about the sovereign landing zone and some of the features. Now it's time to talk about deploying it, which is really the first step to setting up Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty for your organization. Let's take a look. Designing an enterprise-scale architecture can be complicated, so we've done that heavy lifting. The sovereign landing zone is a consistent way to get your environment up and running, and we deliver that consistency by using an infrastructure as code approach. What does that mean? We're writing the code in Bicep, which makes it compatible with your other infrastructure as code efforts. We're also open sourcing this in GitHub, which gives us a single source of truth and also allows all you folks in the Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty community to look at our code, contribute, and help make this better every day. For those familiar with GitHub, we're using the standard MIT licensing for open source. Once you begin the deployment, it can take 1 to 2 hours to complete, but we're not going to make you wait that long. So let's fast forward a couple of hours and hop on over to the Azure portal. Now we have a sovereign landing zone. The first thing you'll see is our deployment, which we've named Contoso Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty. Figuring out how it's all organized is as simple as clicking through the hierarchy in this tree. We want it to be easy to see how resources are deployed, so we've created these management groups, which help keep your shared services and your applications separate. Management groups are also great for this because you can use them to automatically apply policies to your environment. If you're already using management groups, that's not a problem. We've made this flexible to either be your starting point for greenfield deployments, or you can deploy it into your existing tenant root group as part of brownfield efforts. Infrastructure as code makes it easy to deploy into Azure, but that doesn't make it compliant with your local laws and regulations. We've thought about that, and we came up with a starting point for your compliance and baked that into our management group policies. Using Azure policy in our landing zone makes it easy to do things like restricting geographies, enforcing encryption, and making sure your resources are correctly configured. We've created a base set of policies to use, so when you have to verify compliance with regulations or standards, they're already included in our compliance baseline. And here in this view, you can see the high-level groupings of the various policies. And since we've configured all of this using Bicep, it makes it easy to verify that your workloads are compliant and healthy. And these dashboards do exactly that. At a glance, you can see the sovereign environment. And as you can see here, we're viewing the Contoso customer dashboard, aggregated compliance, and where the resources are deployed. And we can also see how compliant they are against all the applied frameworks. So we want you to try this out for yourself, without the overhead or the heavy lift of incorporating into your DevOps pipelines or other processes. So you can feel comfortable and confident about how the solution can meet your organization's needs before committing. So to make this easy, we've put this in the Microsoft Solutions Center. With the Solutions Center, we can make Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty features available to you with just a few clicks. You can use the Getting Started to access documentation, training, and even get support for some of your planning activities. You can go ahead and deploy the Sovereign Landing Zone from here. Customize the baseline policies, or even add additional frameworks that are necessary for your country or organization. We can give you access to sample workloads and resources. And you can see other features of Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty. It's all here, all in one place, so you can quickly deploy and evaluate Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty for your organization within your own Azure subscription. With that, let me hand it back to Vasilios. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that great overview, Deepti. As I mentioned earlier, one of the key differentiating technologies for Microsoft that is a critical component of our sovereign controls is the Azure Confidential Computing Platform. To provide a background and the latest updates on our confidential computing investments, I'd like to hand off to Vikas, Head of Product for Azure Confidential Computing. Over to you, Vikas.
Thank you, Vasilios. Hello, everyone. My name is Vikas Bhatia. Today, I would like to talk about what's new in Azure Confidential Computing and how it helps support Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty. So we've been talking to a whole bunch of public sector customers. And public sector customers are increasingly looking to verify as much as possible. And what it all boils down to is they want full control over their data lifecycle. And this is being driven by regulations and compliance, the need to maintain their customer trust. There are privacy regulations happening all around us. Privacy is top of mind for everyone right now. And also, these public sector customers are looking for operational transparency. They want to know what is going on with their workloads as it is running in the public cloud. This is the state of data protection today. Our industry does a great job of protecting data at rest and data in transit. You can come, take my laptop away, you're not going to find anything because data stays protected at rest using something like BitLocker. Similarly, when your data is in the cloud, it stays encrypted at rest with a key that you own. Similarly, data in transit. We don't really do HTTP traffic over the wire anymore. We do HTTPS, we do TLS. These are standard things that most customers do today. But this is the state of the cloud as we know it. Customers run their cloud and they think that they've done everything possible to make sure that their workloads are as secure as possible. They ensure they've done the threat models, they've ensured they've looked at every library running in the cloud, but their cloud sits as part of a larger cloud. There is an infrastructure there that manages their workloads for them. There is a hypervisor, there's a host OS, There are virtual machine administrators that are on the staff of the customers. There's physical access. Azure today is super, super secure, and we are running billions of dollars of workloads on the Azure cloud today. But there is a class of customers who are sophisticated and would love to reduce the trust in the cloud provider as much as possible. Customers are expecting many of these capabilities today. Confidential computing is the missing third leg of the data protection lifecycle. Confidential computing helps protect data in use. When data is in memory, data is in RAM while it is being computed upon. Confidential computing helps ensure that the data that the customers have is never in the clear. With confidential computing, customers can now have the assurance that their data is protected during its entire life cycle. As the data is created, as the data is stored, as the data is transferred, as the data is in use, and even when the data is destroyed. So with confidential computing, customers are now protected from malicious privileged insiders or administrators, hackers, bugs in the hypervisor or operating system, or even confidential computing helps unlock many of the scenarios that have been hard to do or even impossible, such as sharing data across multiple parties. In Azure, confidential computing means that there is an independent hardware root of trust. Customers can verify the state of their workloads before they run their workloads in the cloud. And we offer memory encryption capabilities that protects that data in use as it is being operated upon. So what is confidential computing? Confidential computing is the protection of data in use by performing computation in a hardware-based trusted execution environment. This is a definition that came out from the Confidential Computing Consortium that Microsoft was a co-founder in. Microsoft helped co-found this Confidential Computing Consortium back in September 2019, and is one of the many cloud providers who are there trying to help further the acceleration and adoption of confidential computing technologies. With confidential computing, customers now have verifiable assurance for data integrity, code integrity, and data confidentiality. We've been working with public sector customers for a while now, and here are some of the use cases that we hear of. Some of the use cases are such as protecting critical infrastructure, anti-corruption scenarios, cybercrime prevention, or something as serious as safeguarding vulnerable populations such as human trafficking. Confidential computing can help many of these scenarios because it helps ensure that the data stays protected during its entire life cycle. And we've also been working with Proximus, who is a leading Belgium telecommunications provider who uses Azure Confidential Computing to keep customer trust while meeting European Union regulations. And the confidential computing market is looking to grow 26x over the next 5 years. This study was a study done by an independent third-party research company, Everest Group, which projected that over the next 5 years, they expect the confidential computing market to be over $50 billion with a CAGR of more than 100% year over year. And a large part of it is driven by evolving scenarios such as multi-party computing, regulations, compliance, privacy, interest in the regulated industries such as financial, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, and more. Additionally, confidential computing is a global market. The needs for the capability that confidential computing provides are applicable all around the world. In short, confidential computing is the future of computing. Azure and Microsoft believe in it, and we are here to take the conversation forward and help accelerate the adoption of these technologies in the public sector. So now let's talk about what is confidential computing and how we think about confidential computing in Azure. In Azure, we think about confidential computing as rooted on these key foundations. And let me walk you through them one by one. Our goal here is to help you achieve the highest levels of data privacy for your most sensitive workloads running in the public cloud. First, we believe that confidential computing comes with an independent hardware root of trust, where Azure itself is removed from the root of trust, and the root of trust is now embedded onto Intel, AMD, or NVIDIA, or an external independent third-party hardware provider. Another key pillar of confidential computing is attestation. With attestation, and specifically remote attestation, customers can now verify that their workloads are running in an environment that they expect. With remote attestation capabilities, customers can now ensure that the environment is exactly the way that they wanted it to be before releasing their code in that environment or the data in that environment. Another key element of confidential computing is the keys. We took Azure Key Vault and we refactored it to create Azure Managed HSM or hardware security modules, which help provide encryption of the keys that are leveraged in the confidential computing environment. We offer capabilities such as secure key release and policies that help you ensure that your keys are completely secure and only in the clear when they are in a trusted execution environment. Another element of attestation and confidential key management is that both of these services are themselves running in a confidential enclave, thus ensuring that Azure as the cloud service provider is outside the trusted computing base. In addition, Azure itself provides confidential first-party services. We take our past SaaS services and we are gradually making them confidential to help ensure that you have true end-to-end confidentiality. So when we say confidential computing in Azure, we provide end-to-end solutions where we do not just cover virtual machines and containers, but we also ensure that services are confidential. The diagram in front of you shows the current portfolio of Azure confidential computing offerings. In Azure, confidential computing covers not just virtual machines and containers, but also Azure PaaS SaaS services. The capabilities that we provide will help you choose the most secure route where you have control over every single line of code, or easy button offerings where you can lift and shift your entire applications into a confidential environment without changing a single line of code. Let's first start with confidential virtual machines with AMD SEV SNP. The first is that AMD-based technologies do not require customers and partners to rewrite their applications. These virtual machines are generally available as DCAS v5 and ECAS v5 virtual machine series, where the virtual machine memory entirely is encrypted and integrity protected by CPU-generated keys. The last point is important because integrity protection is one of the key tenets of confidential computing. In addition, Azure also provides full operating system disk encryption capabilities with keys themselves sealed in the VTPM. In addition, we are extending our capabilities by providing you guest attestation capabilities rooted down to AMD's root of trust. So here, what you can do is you can make your entire applications confidential without any code changes. So the workflow for you is as simple as take a virtual machine, a confidential virtual machine, deploy your workload in that environment, and now your memory is encrypted and you get confidentiality and integrity as part of it. And the hypervisor and the infrastructure below it is now isolated from your workloads. We have new features coming out for confidential virtual machines now that we are happy to announce. The first one that is coming out as generally available is guest attestation capabilities. Attestation is a key element of confidentiality, as I just mentioned. This will now help you verify that a confidential virtual machine is running in a hardware-based trusted execution environment with the security features that you want that are enabled. This enables application developers to ensure that their workload is running in a desired good state before they send their workloads in that environment. Remote attestation artifacts are provided where you can now ensure that relying parties can gain trust to make transactions with each other. In this diagram, as you can see, we give you a guest attestation library that can interface with our Microsoft Azure attestation service for remote attestation capabilities, which ensures that you have a report that tells you that the environment is exactly in the format that you expect it to be. Moving on, we have other capabilities that we also provide with Intel Software Guard extensions or SGX technologies. These virtual machines are also generally available with DCS v2 and DCS v3 series, where you can now protect your data down to the applications. We also provide memory encryption capabilities, and with the new DCS v2, DCS v3 virtual machines, we are now enabling 1500x increase in enclave protected cache or EPC memory to up to 256 gigabytes in the latest generation. With Intel SGX technologies, and you can create app enclaves which help you achieve the highest levels of data privacy with control over every single line of code. In Azure, we are also providing GPU trusted execution environments, which are currently in limited preview. Our vision here is to ensure that you have end-to-end confidentiality, which includes not just the CPUs, but also the GPUs. GPUs are super critical for scenarios that require at-scale AI training and inferencing in the cloud. This is right now in limited preview, and we encourage you to sign up for the preview at that link provided. In addition to confidential virtual machines, we are also announcing as generally available today that we have confidential virtual machine AKS node pools available. So with confidential virtual machine node pools, you can now get data and use protection for your AKS agent node pools, which enable the memory encryption capabilities. And with this, you can make your containers confidential without any code changes, and you can also get remote guest attestation capabilities to ensure that your workloads are deployed on an environment that you expect them to be at. In addition, earlier this year, we announced the first serverless offering on confidential computing with Azure Container Instances or ACI containers. These are now in limited preview with a public preview coming soon. With confidential ACI, we can now help you give you a dedicated hypervisor, which ensures that in-memory encryption per container group. And you get full guest attestation capabilities, which gives you a measurement of all the components that are in use. These sort of capabilities, the serverless capabilities, are ideal for confidential ML or AI ML workloads, which are short-lived or burstable. And we are super excited to announce the public preview of Azure Virtual Desktop on confidential virtual machines. With confidential virtual machines, Azure Virtual Desktop can now deliver a complete Windows 11 desktop and application experience. With this, you now get secure remote access with Windows Hello and also Windows 11 multi-session capabilities. You can also auto-scale confidential virtual machines as demand changes. We are super excited with this capability and we're excited to see what you can do with it. In addition, we are also announcing that you can now use SQL Server installations on confidential virtual machines, where you get full T-SQL, full transaction SQL server installation, where your entire virtual machines get memory encryption. You also get remote attestation capabilities at boot. This is ideal for all lift and shift workloads that require SQL Server capabilities. Now, with confidential virtual machines that can now run SQL Server, you can confidently bring your most sensitive data to Azure with SQL Server. In summary, when we say confidential cloud, what we mean by that is that data is in control of the customer during its entire life cycle, whether that's at rest, in transit, or in use. We also believe that the cloud provider is outside the trusted computing base. The code that you're running in the cloud is protected and verified by you, the customer, with remote attestation capabilities. And also with capabilities such as Azure Confidential Ledger, the activity history is itself immutable and auditable. So with that, let me hand it over to Vasilios.
Thanks so much, Vikas. Let me end by saying there's a growing interest in public cloud capabilities, economics, agility, innovation, and expertise within government organizations to help them digitally transform. The Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty, in concert with the Azure Confidential Computing Platform, offers the tools, the innovation, and the processes to enable each government and each organization to meet their requirements. More importantly, we believe that our partners are critical in helping drive our customer success and cloud strategy. Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty creates incremental opportunities for our partners to help local customers adopt rapid innovation with the public cloud while meeting their local compliance and regulatory needs. As you've seen with the Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty, we're executing on additional investments to make the platform even more capable. And we're so excited to be part of our government customers' digital transformation initiatives and unlock new opportunities together.